It has been 236 years since President George Washington's first national Thanksgiving proclamation. It was a request from Congress for Washington to designate November 26, 1789 as a national day of thanks and prayer to honor religious and civil liberty. During today's turkey pardoning ceremony, President Trump carried on that spirit, urging Americans to use Thanksgiving as an opportunity to spend time with family and friends and renew their faith in God. Joining us now to discuss is U.S. Navy SEAL veteran Mike Sarraille. He's currently the Chief Talent Officer at Overwatch Mission Critical. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Now, as a veteran and a leading leadership coach, why do you think President George Washington's proclamation still matters in America today?
Well, Tiffany, I want to go back in time. 1789, the Constitution has been ratified. It's a young country. And I'm sure democracy was a lot more fragile at that point. And take into account that during the Revolutionary War, those fighting for it never gained more than 45% support from the colonists. So that means 55% of the colonists were either in support of British or just didn't want to be involved and take a side. So, we've got to put ourselves in George Washington's state of mind, where he's trying to create this sense of shared purpose and unity. And that's why he signed this proclamation for Thanksgiving, the 26th day of November, for friends and families, for communities to come together and give thanks for our freedoms in this grand experiment we call America. And that's why it's relevant today, because we are a house divided. And I think for a lot of people that have been on this earth long enough and in the United States, they've never seen our country this divisive. And this is the time for shared purpose and unity, to be thankful for those who gave their lives, for those who built this nation, and remind one another that our covenant to them is to keep building it in the direction and the trajectory that they foresaw into the future.
Now, Washington emphasized that our national government must remain wise, just, and constitutional. From your perspective, why are those values especially important for Americans to revisit right now?
Wise, just, and constitutional. And I think what he's speaking about is governance through virtue. And government must be accountable. It must be responsible. It must remain with the decrees that the Constitution set forth. And one of the things that we lose sight about is if you read those founding documents, God is mentioned throughout them. This country was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and we have strayed arguably from those, and we need to return to them. And you see that right now. We talk about sovereignty. Sovereignty requires borders, and borders require enforcement. We need to protect our nation. We need to govern justly and with virtue and with integrity and character. And arguably, I think if you ask a lot of Americans right now if they trust government, the answer is no. And that is the challenge that lays ahead of us. How do we get back to restoring the trust of the people in government? And that is why these periods like Thanksgiving come together, and finding what connects us, and the fact that we live in the greatest country in the world. Yeah, we've got problems, but even if you multiply those problems by 5, we are still the best nation in the world. And we've got to stop focusing on everything that is so wrong and the things that unite us. And days like that remind us of that.
And Mike, you often talk about service and character. How can families today, especially parents raising young people, use Thanksgiving as a moment to teach gratitude, resilience, and appreciation for freedom?
Yeah, especially in a culture where I can define it by selfishness and entitlement. We lose sight of all the people that have bled either defending this nation, bled building it. And we need to remind them that the fact that you sit in an air-conditioned space, that you have modern plumbing and connectivity and electricity, is because somebody in the trades built those homes, that somebody invented that. And we have been one of the most innovative countries from which everyone relies on our technology. That is the advancement. That is the contribution every generation of Americans have made. And we've got to remind our youth, we've got to teach them civics, a subject that is arguably declined within our educational system. we have to remind them of the history. And when people have a better understanding of our history, a better appreciation for all the long line of Americans since 1776 that have defended our nation, that have built our nation, they realize and they sort of create that covenant I spoke about earlier, that, hey, they've passed that legacy on to us, and it is up to us to continue to pass that legacy on to the next generation, making America a better place than what we were born into.
And expanding on that, Thanksgiving was created as a unifying national moment. How can Americans today practice unity and gratitude, even when the country feels divided?
Yeah, I think rule number one is don't talk politics across the Thanksgiving table. There's no surefire way to piss people off. If you have differing political opinions, just agree to disagree. Talk about one another. Talk about what's going on in their lives. Hear stories. Tell stories about gratitude or something that you appreciate in someone else, and focus on the things that are truly important, not the politics, but one another, personal relationships, community, family, Judeo-Christian values. Those are the things that we need to remind people about, and also take part in your communities. You know, we can sit and watch the news and complain all day long about all the things that are wrong with this country, but you know what? That just makes you part of the problem. That you're not actually getting involved to make your community, your town, your state, the entire nation better. And so we need to remind people that not only is it your obligation to vote, but it's also to get involved and make this place better than we found it.
Human connection, very important for sure. Mike Sarraille, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy Thanksgiving.